Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my guide covering landing a jet. This covers your combat aircraft, your Caesar BTT, the civilian aircraft will be covered in a completely separate guide. Mainly because it has its own different speeds. It's very different from the jets in this game, but also I just love the thing so much I feel like it deserves its own guide. So, there's a few steps to landing. First, you have to line up with your runway. And you want to give yourself 3.5 kilometers to slow your jet down for your landing. 3.5 kilometers is enough room that you can lower your landing gear, adjust your flaps, lose your speed, everything you need to do for landing in any aircraft in the game, even a Shikra slowing down from 1,100 kilometers an hour. It's just enough room to do all of that and time it perfectly. So 3.5 kilometers is the speed at which you want to start decreasing your throttle, lowering your landing gear and everything. So whenever you line yourself up with the runway, keep that in mind. Leave 3.5 kilometers. Next is decreasing your throttle. Once you're at that 3.5 kilometers, you're going to completely cut your throttle and lower your landing gear. So cutting your throttle would be holding Z until it goes down to 0. Your landing gear would just be hitting G once, and that will lower your landing gear. Once you have done that, you're going to use your air brake. You're going to hold X and lower your speed. In a Wipeout, you're going to lower to about 200 kilometers an hour, and then you're going to increase your throttle to 30 to 40%, and this will keep you level at that speed until you're ready to land. Now, on the screen right now, I'll have all the speeds at which you can just kind of fly level at while you approach the runway. These are not speeds I recommend flying at unless you're landing, because these are very close to the point of stalling the aircraft. They're just fast enough to keep you in the air and slightly decrease your altitude over time. Now, once you have done this and you're approaching the runway, you're going to completely cut your throttle once you're about 50 meters from the runway, and then hold your handbrake to decrease your speed enough so that you can complete your landing. Now on the screen, I will have all the speeds for landing the aircraft right now. So that's the speed at which you want to have your aircraft touch the ground, so that way you can do it safely without damaging the vehicle at all. So I have those on the screen right now. And once you do this, as long as you keep the throttle completely at 0, the aircraft should come to a stop on its own. And something like a Wipeout, if you're in a drastic situation where you need to lose speed, you can use your main cannon. Firing that is like an emergency brake, almost. It will cause you to lose a lot of speed, but you have to worry about what you're looking at. You might be shooting friendlies or something, and you don't want to waste ammo. That's why it's an emergency brake. You only use it in drastic situations. Say you're crash landing or something like that, and you have a very short runway to do it on. But otherwise, that should be unneeded. Pretty much every airfield in the game is big enough for something like a Wipeout. So, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate a landing. As you can see, going along about 3.5 kilometers out from the runway. I'm going to completely cut my throttle and lower my landing gear. I'm going to hold X for my handbrake, or not handbrake, air brake, sorry. It's not a car. And I'm going to drop my speed to about 200 kilometers an hour. Sometimes I'll go a little lower. Not a little lower, a little higher. Never want to go below that because you're very close to stalling, as I said at that point. So once I get to about 210, I'm going to increase my throttle, and that should drop me to like basically 200. Like I said, I'm going to keep it right around 30 to 40. This should keep me fairly level. I can use my handbrake to adjust a little if needed, to keep it right on that mark. Now, again, I'm going to stay very level. You don't want to come in too steep. You also don't want to come in too low. You want your landing to be kind of right in between. If you're too steep, you can damage the aircraft in landing or die. If you're coming in too low, you get at trees and things like that and die. As you can see, close enough to the runway, I completely cut my throttle, hold my air brake, and I land going about 170, 150. Landed perfectly without taking any damage. Not touching my keyboard at all right now. Having my throttle at 0 simply decreases my speed. And as you can see, I come to a perfect stop without damaging the aircraft whatsoever. So, that right there is your perfect landing. And you should be able to do that in every aircraft in the game. Now the best way to practice this is to spawn an aircraft in the editor. If you hold Alt and left control and drag the aircraft, you can increase its altitude. And then if you hold Shift and left control, you can point the aircraft in whatever direction you want. So by doing this, you can set up an aircraft to be in the air, moving, and aligned with the airfield already, so you can practice landing itself. And once you get good with that, you can practice the overall approach on the airfield and getting used to lining up with the airfield, which is something you're going to have to know if you're flying in anything other than the editor. Yeah, I mean, that's the basics of your landing. It's a very simple topic. I hope this guy helps you guys out, and I will see you in the next one.